Hey everyone, welcome back to English Echo Daily. So happy to have you here today because we are getting into a topic that I genuinely believe is one of the most important life skills a person can develop: emotional control. How to manage what you feel, how to stay calm when everything around you is chaotic, and how to respond to life's challenges instead of just reacting to them.
This is such a rich topic, and I think what makes it so important is that your emotions touch absolutely everything. Your relationships, your work, your health, your decisions, your happiness, all of it is shaped by how well you manage what's going on inside you. People who have good emotional control tend to have better outcomes in almost every area of life.
And yet, emotional control is something that almost nobody explicitly teaches you. You go to school and learn math, history, science, but how to handle anger, how to process disappointment, how to stay calm under pressure, most people have to figure that out on their own, often the hard way.
So today we want to change that. Let's start with something really important: what emotional control actually is, because I think a lot of people misunderstand it. They think it means suppressing emotions, pretending you don't feel things, putting on a brave face no matter what.
And that's actually the opposite of what we're talking about. Suppressing emotions doesn't make them go away, it just pushes them underground, where they build pressure and eventually explode in ways that are often much worse than if you had dealt with them in the first place.
Real emotional control is not about feeling less, it's about responding better. It's the ability to feel something fully: anger, fear, sadness, frustration, and still choose how you respond to it. The emotion happens. What you do with it is where your power lies.
There's a concept in psychology called the stimulus-response gap. Between something happening to you, the stimulus, and your reaction to it, the response, there's a gap. Even if it feels like a fraction of a second, that gap exists. And in that gap is your freedom to choose. Emotionally intelligent people learn to use that gap.
Viktor Frankl, the famous psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, expressed this beautifully. The idea, and I'm paraphrasing here, is that between stimulus and response there is space, and in that space lies our power to choose. Expanding that space is essentially what emotional control is all about.
So, how do you expand that space? How do you create more distance between what happens to you and how you react? Let's get into the practical strategies because that's what really matters.
The first and most immediate tool is breathing. And I know, breathing sounds almost too simple, too obvious, but the science behind it is genuinely powerful. When you're emotionally activated, angry, anxious, overwhelmed, your nervous system is in fight or flight mode. Your heart rate goes up, your muscles tense, your thinking becomes narrower and more reactive.
Deep, slow breathing directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and calm system, which counteracts that stress response. A simple technique: breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts. Box breathing, it's called, used by Navy SEALs, athletes, surgeons, people who need to perform under extreme pressure.
And the beautiful thing is, you can do this anywhere, anytime, without anyone even knowing. Someone says something that makes you angry in a meeting. Before you respond, take one slow breath. That single breath can be the difference between a reaction you regret and a response you're proud of.
The second strategy is naming your emotions. This sounds simple, but it's deeply powerful, and there's fascinating neuroscience behind it. When you experience a strong emotion and you put a specific name to it: I am feeling frustrated right now, I notice I'm anxious about this, something remarkable happens in your brain.
The act of labeling an emotion activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain, and simultaneously reduces activity in the amygdala, which is the emotional alarm center. In other words, naming what you feel literally calms the emotional storm in your brain. Researchers call this affect labeling.
And the more specific you are, the better it works. Not just I feel bad, but I feel disappointed because I expected something different. Not just I'm stressed, but I feel overwhelmed because I have too many things competing for my attention right now. Specificity gives you clarity, and clarity gives you power.
Name it to tame it. That's the phrase therapists and psychologists use for this. Name the emotion, tame the emotion. simple, memorable, and genuinely effective.
The third strategy is creating physical distance or time when you feel emotionally flooded. Sometimes the best thing you can do in a heated moment is simply remove yourself from it, temporarily. I need a few minutes is not weakness, it's wisdom.
When you're in the middle of an intense emotional experience, your rational thinking is genuinely compromised. Your brain is flooded with stress hormones, and it's not operating at its best. Decisions made in that state are often ones you regret. Stepping away, even for 5 or 10 minutes, allows those hormones to metabolize and your thinking to clear.
Sleep on it is a classic piece of advice for exactly this reason. Before sending that angry email, before making that impulsive decision, before having that difficult conversation, sleep on it. Let time do its work. Morning almost always brings more clarity and perspective than the heat of the moment.
And count to 10, another classic that people sometimes dismiss as too simplistic, but it works for the same reason. You're creating time between the stimulus and the response. 10 seconds of counting is 10 seconds your brain has to begin calming down.
The fourth strategy is perspective shifting. When you're caught in a strong emotion, your perspective narrows dramatically. Whatever is happening feels enormous, permanent, and personal. Perspective shifting is the practice of deliberately zooming out.
A few questions that help with this. Will this matter in a year? Most things that feel catastrophic in the moment are completely forgotten within months. Is this the worst thing that could happen? Usually the answer is no, and that realization provides immediate relief. What would I tell a good friend who is going through this? We give much better advice to others than to ourselves.
Another powerful perspective shift is something called the view from above, imagining yourself from a great distance, seeing your situation as just one small moment in a much larger life. This isn't about minimizing your feelings, it's about seeing them in proportion.
This too shall pass, one of the oldest and wisest phrases in any language. Every emotional state, no matter how intense, is temporary. Anger fades, anxiety subsides, grief softens. Knowing this doesn't make the feeling less real, but it makes it more manageable.
The fifth strategy is understanding your emotional triggers. A trigger is something, a situation, a word, a tone of voice, a specific person that reliably sets off a strong emotional response in you. And the key word is reliably. Triggers are patterns, and patterns can be studied and understood.
Most people go through life reacting to their triggers without ever stopping to examine them. They just know that certain things make them furious or deeply anxious or immediately defensive, but they don't know why. And without understanding the why, you can't change the pattern.
Spending time reflecting on your emotional reactions, ideally in writing in a journal, is one of the most effective ways to identify your triggers. After an emotionally intense moment, ask yourself, what exactly happened? What did I feel? When have I felt this before? What does this remind me of?
Often, triggers connect back to past experiences, fears, or unmet needs. Understanding that connection doesn't make the trigger disappear, but it gives you a kind of emotional literacy about yourself that makes you far less reactive over time.
The sixth strategy, and this one is about the long game, is building emotional resilience through lifestyle habits, because your baseline emotional state is heavily influenced by how you treat your body and mind on a daily basis.
Sleep deprivation makes you emotionally reactive. Poor nutrition affects your mood. Lack of exercise increases anxiety and irritability. Social isolation amplifies negative emotions. These are not soft suggestions, they are biological facts. Your emotional system runs on a physical foundation.
People who sleep well, eat reasonably well, move their bodies regularly, and maintain social connections are genuinely more emotionally stable than those who don't, not because they have better personalities, but because their nervous system is better resourced to handle stress.
And practices like meditation and mindfulness, which have become much more mainstream in recent years, have strong scientific evidence behind them for improving emotional regulation. Even 5 to 10 minutes of mindfulness practice per day over weeks and months produces measurable changes in how the brain processes emotions.
Mindfulness means paying attention to the present moment with curiosity and without judgment. It sounds simple, but training your attention in this way builds the same mental muscles that help you stay calm and clear in emotionally charged situations.
As we move toward wrapping up, I want to say something about relationships and emotional control, because this is where it matters most practically. The people we are closest to are often the ones who trigger our strongest emotions and the ones most affected by how we handle those emotions.
Emotional control in relationships doesn't mean being cold or unexpressive. It means being able to have difficult conversations without screaming, to feel hurt without lashing out, to disagree without destroying, to be vulnerable without losing yourself.
Respond, don't react is a phrase worth memorizing. Reacting is automatic and emotionally driven. Responding is intentional and values driven. In any difficult interaction, that distinction makes all the difference.
And here's something beautiful about developing emotional control. It's contagious in the best way. When you stay calm in a situation that would normally escalate, you create the possibility for the other person to calm down too. One regulated nervous system can genuinely co-regulate another. Your calmness is a gift to everyone around you.
That's such a powerful thought to end on. Your emotional control doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everyone you interact with, your family, your colleagues, your friends. Learning to manage your emotions is one of the most generous things you can do for the people in your life.
So, the takeaway from today is this: you cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always, with practice, control how you respond to it. And that ability, developed over time, is one of the most powerful things a human being can build.
Start small. Next time you feel a strong emotion rising, try just one thing from today's episode. Take a breath. Name what you're feeling. Give yourself 10 seconds. That's enough to begin.
Thank you so much for listening to English Echo Daily today. We hope this gave you both excellent English practice and something genuinely useful for your life. See you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone. Stay calm out there. You've got this.
Bye.